Hi guys, welcome. Now, today we're going to be doing some metal work. So before we actually welcome, we're going to start some metal work today. We're going to be making a ring, something like this ring here.
Excellent.
You'll be doing it with brass or copper. This is sterling silver one, and you'll be making it to actually fit your finger. Now, I'm going to go over all the other parts when we're actually outside in our studio, outside studio, and I'll explain all those to you then. At the moment, before we go out, we need to just quickly go over the things we need to think about for being safe and the equipment we're going to use. So when we get out there, we are going to be soldering our rings. And your ring is going to start once you have shaped it. So once you've got your metal, you're going to be squeezing it. And you'll be shaping it with your round nose pliers. And then you're going to have it so that the join is level that way and that way. And it's going to sit really tight. So it doesn't matter if it's flat because it might be tighter that way than on an angle. So then it's going to go to your cross lock tweezers. We will use the flux, we'll use the silver solder. So have any of you ever done that before when you've been soldering? Have anyone ever experienced silver soldering before?
When I was younger, I did it with you.
Okay, so that's great. So we'll go back over it. You're going to be taking a little bit more control, and then you do your soldering. These are cross lock tweezers. They're called that because they lock shut. So to open them, you squeeze them. They take quite a bit of force, so when you pick them up, they don't automatically just fall out unless you push really hard. So you will pick up your hot work using the timber section. Why would you not grab the metal section when you're coming to pick up your work? We're going over a few safety things when we're doing our soldering. Why would you only pick up the cross lock tweezers?
Don't get burned.
Yeah. Okay, because the metal's going to be really hot, and wood does not do what that metal does.
Transfer heat.
Transfer heat, so it will stay cool. Yeah, great. So I don't need to check what you know. You'll have a pair of tweezers like this nearby in case something jumps and moves and you need to put it in place because you don't want to do it with your fingers. You'll have the snippers in case you need to adjust your metal before we start and to cut off our silver solder. And so that's our basic equipment. We'll be using round nose pliers, snippers, cross lock tweezers and tweezers. They're the key things you'll use. Okay. Safety. When we're going out there and being safe, there's some things we need to think about. So we're going outside and we're soldering and we're going to be using a fire brick. Why would we be using a fire brick rather than just a piece of wood or metal? What's a handy thing?
It doesn't burn.
Yeah, so it doesn't, because we're actually going to be soldering with a flame, as I demonstrated before. So the gas flame shoots out, so it's a bit like a Bunsen burner in your hand. And that flame, the heat that you'll see will be maybe about that long. And the heat that you can't see is out here, which is where we're going to start heating. So there's probably about 10 to 15 centimetres of quite hot heat that you don't really see. When we work outside, we will have to deal with the weather. There might be a little bit of wind, which will make it a little bit different, but it's probably safer than doing it in a crowded space inside when we don't have a proper studio space here. And you'll go through the process of making it. What are some of the safety clothes that you need to make sure you have in place?
Non-flammable.
Non-flammable. So what would non-flammable clothing be made out of?
Leather.
Leather? Leather's good, yeah. What else might you use?
Rubber.
Cotton, did you say?
I said rubber.
Rubber for clothing. You don't really want rubber because the rubber would melt.
Wool.
Wool and cotton. So wool doesn't burn easily. Cotton, if it does burn, will fall off you. If you have synthetics on, they will melt and stick to your skin and create quite bad burns. So that's why we make sure if we don't have cotton and we put a leather jacket over the top, then we're protecting ourselves. What do we put on our feet?
Shoes.
What sort of shoes do they need to be?
Leather shoes.
Leather shoes, yep, leather shoes. We can put swats on top. They're a piece of leather that can go over the top if you don't have leather shoes.
Great.
Why don't we wear thongs?
Because they're working with hot metal and fire.
Yeah, hot metal and fire. And these tools are pretty light, but some of the tools we use are quite heavy. Okay, so when we get out there, what are some of the important things we need to do as a group when you're waiting for your turn?
Stay out of the way.
And stay out of the way, because remember, if I have a flame, and pretend this is my flame, this is my ghost torch and my flame shooting out here. If I'm over here soldering with somebody and you come up and tap me on the back, what happens if I turn around with that flame?
Get burned.
Yeah, I could burn someone. So that space that I've said, we need to leave 1.5 metres behind people. A bit like COVID friendly.
Yes,
1.5 metres behind means that you're
COVID
not likely to burn
and
anyone.
fire friendly.
Yep, and then we don't go near people when they're doing it. What else do we have to do? Is my hair cool?
No, you need to tie
Okay, so
your
we need
hair
to
up.
tie our hair back. And it's silver soldering.
Protect your eyes.
It's good to put on some safety glasses if you have them. It's not always essential because you very, very rarely have anything that spits. But in a school situation, it's probably good to get used to wearing safety glasses. But you need to have really good clean ones, because otherwise it's difficult when we're doing fine work to see.
Okay.
Okay, and of course you'll need your mask on if we're doing COVID close work. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, so we'll go out there and we'll go through our turn in setting up the flux, solder, soldering. What do we do with our work when we finish soldering?
Let it cool.
Let it cool a little bit, and then what do we do with it before we touch it?
Dip it in water.
Dip it in water, and that will quench it and cool it. And as soon as it's in there, it conducts, coolness is like it conducts heat quickly. You can pick it up, pull it out. Okay, thank you. Okay, hi. Now, welcome back, students. We're just going to go through the practical things of making a ring. We're going to go back over the steps you've got to do that. So we'll refresh safety. You've all got cotton clothes on and covered shoes. You need to have protective eyewear when you come to do the soldering with the gas torch, which we'll do here. We'll be using the cross-lock tweezers, which we will squeeze. They will hold the work in place. The timber stops you when you touch them from getting burnt fingers. You don't want heavy gloves on for this. This is a very fine heat that's coming through. We will again use flux. Remember, flux keeps the metal clean when the heat goes onto it. Therefore the flame won't oxidise and make it go black, and the solder will stay in its place. This is all just refreshing what we discussed earlier in class when we were doing our preparation for this. Now, before we go any further, I have already checked the gas. I have put on the filter, I've opened it up, I've used this to check that there's no air bubbles, so I put soapy water on, no bubbles came out, which says that all the fittings are tight and secure. We've got a little bit of a breeze here, so it may take a little bit of time to get it lit. And first thing you have to do is measure your finger to make your ring. So when you're measuring your finger, I'm going to give you a piece of paper each. Okay, well you can come around here. You're going to come around here to solder. You can come around here if you want to. Okay, when you're measuring your finger, imagine this is my hand. If I want this ring to fit, the easiest way to do is to go around, go past where my join is and fold it and cut off the excess with a pair of scissors, so I only have a little bit more paper than what I need. Then I can come back around to my finger again, and you may need a friend to help do this for you because it can be difficult doing it on your own. But it's really important that the two ends meet, and they meet like that. If they overlap or there's a gap, the ring won't fit you when you finish. So they're going to just touch like that, which means if this was my ring and I was making this one here, I'd come across, I would then fold it back when it's just in the correct spot. I will cut it, and then I will recheck that's right. So have a look, give us a check. Have a check that you both got those right, because you need to have those correct before you go any further for marking it. Okay, so you need to use the scissors to trim it. Okay, so when you're right, you then have to select the metal that fits your finger. Okay? So you might need a wider one, because your paper needs to be able to travel the same distance as the metal. So some of them are longer.
Almost perfect.
Okay, and if that is my correct thing, I then need to line it up I can either mark it, or if I've got a steady hand, I can cut it with scissors, or I can cut it with a guillotine if I'm at school. But I'm not at school at the moment. Oops, you've got your piece of paper.
Yeah.
You've got your piece of metal.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you come over here, you're going to line up your piece of paper so that the end is exactly at the end of the metal, and then you know how long your metal is going to be. You have a choice. You can use a scriber to mark that end, so you know exactly where it needs to be. You can glue that on and cut it on the guillotine, or if you've got a very steady hand and you know you've got that at right angles, you can check that that's at right angles. You can actually snip that off with these snippers. So some students have been using it and made it a bit blunt because they cut the wrong thing with it. Okay. So now I've got my metal exactly the right length that I wanted it to be.
What do you mean?
So I've got my metal exactly where it needs to be. So now my metal's right. I've cut it, shaped it. We have a ring mandrel. It has numbers on it, so you can measure with as I talked about earlier, you can check your size, which will be an alphabet. That's all around you through Europe. You will have these, you can fit onto your finger, and then you know when you put that on there that will be exactly the same size. You can order a ring anywhere in the country. You're going to push your ring around your ring mandrel till it starts to come around into shape. Once you've got it around into shape, so you've got it partly curved, we're then going to use the round nose pliers. And there's a few pairs of round nose pliers here. Round nose pliers have got two round ends, so you can use them for chains or you can use them for rings. You then will push that around to the two pieces adjoining. It won't look right for a ring yet, because this is when you're going to be ready to solder it. So once you've got that lined up, you check it, you have a look with the light source. If it's sitting close and touching, you won't be able to see much gap in between. Unlike when you're welding, you want a gap and you fill the gap. When you're soldering, it won't fill the gap, it will only join it where it's already touching. So this one's almost in position, just needs a little bit of adjusting to get it fine-tuned to sit properly. And once that's sitting properly, I want you to come around to the sides over here and have a look at what I'm doing when I'm soldering. So the first thing is, I've got my ring, I've got my cross-lock tweezers. I don't need two, so I'll put the other ones out of the way. I've got my brush for my flux, which is poisonous. So remember we talked about poison? When you finish doing this, you need to make sure you wash your hands thoroughly with soap afterwards so you don't accidentally put your mouth in there and ingest it. Cross-lock tweezers, you can use either sort of fine to hold it. When we solder our ring, you'll either solder it with, it needs to come in a bit, it's got too much of a gap. I'm trying to fix it, I made it a bit worse, which happens sometimes. Okay, so that's sitting right now. There's two things you have to check. You have to check that it's sitting right this way and also sitting right sideways, because if you don't have your metal level, which mine wasn't a second ago, you will, when you file your ring back into shape, you'll end up having a very skinny ring at one end and it could break. So we then need to come back and put our flux on. So this is our flux, and you will put a little bit on your join. It's pretty much only a few millimetres around the join because you don't want it to run everywhere else. Once you've got it on, you open it up just a little bit to make sure it's gone in between. It is easier if you start with the cross-lock tweezers and have the solder melting at the bottom, and it will sit therefore like this. We shouldn't need any more flux, except we need to put some flux onto our solder. The solder we're using can be, because we're doing one joint, it can be hard, it can be easy, it can be medium. Remember we talked about the temperatures, hard melts at a higher temperature. If we were doing multiple joins, we'd always start with hard, go down to medium, go down to easy, go down to extra easy for each join, so we don't unsolder and because we don't reach the same temperatures. Okay, next thing we need to do is have the solder. So these are the different solders, they're labelled. What you're going to start with, we'll start with the extra easy just to make sure we don't waste lots of time. So we only need about the length of the metal to join. So I'm going to go a little bit longer, and I'm just so I know I've got plenty of solder because I don't want to do it twice. I'm going to bend it around. You can also get sheet metal solder. I've used that probably the most when I'm soldering, but this wire one's fine. I'm going to get some of these ready for the next few people who are about to come and solder. And when you're soldering, you can either have a cotton top on, or you can put on the leather jacket if you want. You really need that more for welding, but if you feel more comfortable wearing it, you're more than welcome to wear it. We will put on safety glasses. You don't normally have problems with metal melting and going into the air, but it is always a possibility when you're working with heat and metal, so it's best to be safe than sorry. So we're going to go through the next stage. We're going to show you the next steps, then you're going to come and solder your ring. So we get your ring ready, sitting in place, in position, and then you'll come and join it. So this one here, okay, important thing is that we get flux that we put on the silver solder. It's got sterling silver in it. It's got mainly sterling silver with some other alloys to make it melt at a lower temperature. Once we've got that, the flux will just about pick it up. Can you see over here? Come around closely. I can place that on there. I don't have to pick it up with tweezers. The moisture from the flux will do that. So I'm just going to push this out of the way while we do the first solder. Okay, so we've got our gas torch. We've checked it safe. We've checked for air bubbles. We've got to light it. When we light it, we will open it up and you'll see these holes. That will get us a really strong flame. Outside it's really harder to set a flame, and the breeze makes it a bit difficult to get a good breeze. We have a fire brick here. We also can use ceramic tiles that are for heat resistant as well, so you get different types of things. So when we turn it on, we just need to turn it very slowly, and we need to make sure we've got our flame ready to go. It might take a while to light. It took me a while before because of the breeze. It's difficult to see. Okay, you can see the flame here. Now I'm going to get you to light it, and then you're going to open this up. It's a bit like a Bunsen burner. And if you have a Bunsen burner, you'll start to see a really sharp blue heat. When you start heating, you're going to start heating around the edge. Now I'm going to move the lighter away, I'm going to move the tweezers away, and I'm just going to be heating. Normally we'd be heating looking towards the wall. As we heat, you see here, the solder is going, the flux is going white and fluffy, and the solder can jump off, so we have to be careful. I'll put some safety goggles on and just, as we said, we will have our safety goggles on, and then we will heat this around, and the flux will go white and crusty after a little while. So if we heat it too quickly, it will actually jump off and we'll have to re-put it on. So we try not to do that. You can see now the colour's changing as I move the heat. I'm not even, the end of the flame is actually here. I'm heating out here because there's a lot of heat coming through. This is working really well. First time I've used this tank with this torch, and you can see the colour changing, which means the metal's being annealed. So where I bent it before, it actually made the metal softer. And this is actually made it hard. Every time we bend metal, it goes hard. Every time we reheat it and anneal it, we can get it soft again. That is what we do when we're using alloys like copper or brass or silver. Now that's melting through here. I've got to make sure my solder's still not coming right across both sides. I've had to take the whole piece, because if I don't keep the whole lot hot, it will not flow across the joint. It's just about there, but it's not quite getting this half here. So I'm going to have to work a bit harder with my flame. Now it's coming across. My solder, can you see it flowing? Now I'm going to go to this side. I'm going to make sure it's come through. See that little silver glow? So we know it's soldered right through. So we know our join's right. Next thing we do, turn off till we get our flame back, and then we turned off. Then it'll be the next person's turn to come in. Now, I used to just quench these straight away in the bucket of water down there. If I let this cool for a few minutes first, I'll have a stronger join with silver solder. So I'm just going to let that one sit here. Next person come in with theirs. Okay. So if you have a look here, this join needs a little bit of manipulating. So I'll just show you what you normally do. You normally try and bend it around past itself. I don't think I've done anything without more mowing happening. Okay, so now let's see how it's sitting. Can you check the light? It's sitting pretty good. We don't have time to, we could file it if we wanted to, but we don't have time. So yeah, do you want to put this in position like that and the cross lock tweezers? Yeah, you got them in your hand. You can squeeze them together with the joint at the bottom. You first of all then pick it up, and you might need to move it a little bit. You can do it that way too. Okay, what I want you to do is get a little bit of flux and put, it's a little bit dry, it needs a little bit of water, a little bit of flux and put it across your joint. On the inside. Then I want you to open it up a little bit, just make sure it's gone in the joint, so pull it apart just a little bit, just very gently. That's right, that's all it needs, it's got to stay shut. And then when we're sitting it, so you can sit this way, so place it down on the bricks, fire bricks. Grab this, the brush, grab a bit of solder that's in here, that's been, make sure the flux is on the solder. Get up with that. Place it on top. On top, yeah, on where your joint is, so you can do it on top or at the bottom, either way is correct. Okay, the important thing is when we're doing silver soldering is that the heat, we have to heat the whole thing. So we're going to move this out of the way. We're going to come down here, put the jacket on, make sure you've got safety goggles. Ready? Make sure you get yours ready too. So this now can go into the bucket and be quenched. It's cool straight away once it's quenched. So it won't take any more time for cooling. Now you're ready to go with yours. So usually I find if I turn this on when you do it, it will help. You just have to watch the three here. Like, oops, this big flame. Okay, now turn this bit here, the opposite direction. You have to try and hold your flame out. Turn it a little bit smaller, we don't need such a long flame, so make it smaller. That's good. Yeah, now turn it round. That's right, now turn this a bit. Just went out. Did it?
I didn't go out, I just can't get it back now. I can't do it because the wind.
Yeah, the wind just came up at the wrong time. No, turn it off. Slow light it again. Now turn it on. Yeah, it's a good idea to use as a shield. It's a great idea to use that as a shield. So hold it up, hold the flame up. Hold the flame sitting up like that. Then you can turn that and control that. Right? Yeah, you just control that. Keep going. Okay, can you just see that blue flame? That's a really good flame. Then you turn it over. You're going to start heating right back here. You want to start with the flame back here. You don't want to be too close.
It's gone out.
It has to. Okay, just light it again. Make it a little bit. You do, because I had to light mine that way before. It's a nice strong flame. Okay, so come around this side. Walk around this side.
Flames go out.
No one. You want to heat. You want to heat it now. This bit of the flame is the hottest, so you want to use that bit, and you want to move around. Just watch me gently. I'll just guide you. I'll just guide you how you go around. Just let me guide you. Just relax. See how I'm moving you around the flame? You can just start to see it changing colour a little bit where the heat is. So keep coming around, and we don't want the solder melting yet, so we need to keep coming around. It's got to change colour quite a lot of times first. Try and keep the debris out of the way. Try and get it more at an angle because you're very tall.
One out
Okay,
again.
good. Okay. Light it again. No, turn it down. It's very high. Turn up a bit bigger so it doesn't go out. Again, so from the other side if you want to. Come right around the other side. I think if you come over and stand here. If I hold this here, just come around here. Come around to this side of the thing so you're actually in a better position. You'll be more comfortable. If you hold it more on this angle, you can actually heat the metal, all of the metal all the way around. So you've got to go really slow. You see the colour changing? So you've got to go really slow. You're going fast, just slow down. If the solder jumps off, you can put it back on with this. That's right, you can see it slowly changing colour as you go around. How are you going, Rob, getting yours into shape? You take sometimes about 20 minutes or so to get it just right. If you bring it back a little bit, you just need the heat about there at the moment. It's enough heat. Keep coming around doing exactly what you're doing. Just try not to have it just touching just yet. It's not hot enough for that yet. The breeze is making it cool. Just trying to get good light source between the photo and the other version of what on there with this in the flame. Okay, see that's starting to change colour? That means it's starting to get a deal. So when you bent it, you made it harder, as you do when you bend it, when you make it hard. And then you anneal it, you will cool it, so when you come to shape it into the ring on the ring handle, you'll find it a lot easier. It's good, you're going really well. Slow down a bit, you just want to see the colours changing as you go, so you know it's really changing. It's got to get a little bit hotter to more of a glow of a red. Now it's close to almost one red. Grab a little bit of flux. You're going to put flux on your join. Just through here, just mainly on your join, a little bit outside it. That's right, and a bit on the inside. Okay, and then I'm going to open that up a little bit. Put that down. Open it up a little bit to check the metal. Pull the two little bits of metal apart. Just check that it's joined properly. It's gone in. Yep, there's some flux there. Okay, so you can do yours this way because you've got this one. So then grab the brush and pick up. Make sure the solder there has got the silver solder. Remember what sort of silver solder it is? Put on the bottom there. The joint is. Remember what sort of silver solder we're using? We're using very easy.
Oh, very easy. Oh,
very easy melts at a lower temperature. I'll go through all the temperatures again with you. Okay, sometimes does that, just use that. Push it off. That's right. And we're going to move this out of the way. You can move the flux, we don't need the flux now on the flame. If you do feel safer turning it on with this, we can. And push it, make sure it's sitting over the join. Great, that's perfect. Okay, come over here. And you need to make sure you're holding it up when we're lighting it. I'm going to light it. And so, like this, you've just got to turn it just a little bit. So feel, no, you turn this little handle, and then you're going to turn that the opposite way. Turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. And you're just going to do it when I'm lighting it. Just do it gently. Turn it on just gently. Good, a little bit higher. A little bit higher. Okay, now grab this little handle there. If you're worried about it, turn the flame upwards. It's got better inside. Very windy out here. So can you see the blue flame there? Okay, so you want to come round And I think you can heat from either side, but you want to heat the whole thing. And you come in a circle, I'll guide you together to get you started. Now be careful the flux doesn't jump off, so you just want to stay out from the hottest bit of the flame. So this bit here is your hottest bit of the flame. You want to start out here and move around. You'll be able to see where you are. See it's changing colour. See, that's how you know you're on the right spot. You start to do a little bit of colour changing as you go. Otherwise it's difficult to tell if you're in the right spot. So keep going round. Keep going round. You don't want to have the solder melt yet because it's going to lose heat and it won't shine properly. Keep coming around. You keep seeing the colour changing. About that pace is a good pace. Come on, keep it on. That's good. Keep going around because you've got to get it hotter. The wind's gone, died down, so that's really good. Now, Jessie, you can get your ring and you can quench it in the bucket. The bucket here's behind me. And then if you dry it off, we'll get the ring mandle and we'll find a rubber mallet and we'll start hammering it into shape. Just go straight in the bucket, straight out. It's cold straight away. It cools very, very quickly.
Now what do I have to do?
Now, you see the ring mandle, so you need to dry it. You'll need to dry it. You can dry it on my clothes if you want to. Just some paper towel inside and then I don't know why we've got gardening gloves here. Okay, keep going around, you're going really well. Keep coming back down, come to your joint. I think you're just about soldered. There it's flowing, come back. See it flowing across the joint. Can you see it flowing? Okay, now let's just check it's come through your joint. Just hold it steady, there. It's good. Yeah, we've got the silvers come through. See it's flowing? Okay, you've done that, that's good. Now when you come back to turn off that little section first. Yep, and then turn the flame down. Okay, excellent. Again. Okay. Okay, so we've just been out there soldering. We've taken off our safety clothes. We've just come back in after our soldering session. And you now have your rings. So which ring was yours? That one? That one? Okay. So once you've got your ring, sorry, I know it's disappointing because it's not in a good shape, but it will be soon. So don't worry about it. The next thing you're going to next thing you're to do is you're going to get. I've already shaped this one on the ring mandle so you can see what you'll do next. So what you'll do, I think this one fits me perfectly. So what you'll do next is you will put the ring onto the ring mandle and you'll get a block to rest it on, and I'll go and get the rubber mallet that I forgot to bring in and you'll hit it with the rubber mallet and you'll turn it each way till you've got a perfectly round ring. Now we're going to do that at the start of next lesson, but I want to show you where we're going. Any more questions to sum up what we did today? What were the key things we learnt?
Soldering.
Soldering, what did we use to solder?
Solder.
What sort of solder? What was
Silver
silver solder? Okay, so it's made out of sterling silver. We actually used easy, which melts at a temperature that's not too high. Okay, what did we solder on?
A fire brick.
A fire brick. What else did we need to use to solder? What equipment did we use to hold it?
A doobie lucky thing. Pincers.
Cross lock. We've got to learn to practice our language. Cross lock tweezers.
Cross lock tweezers.
And
Not cross lock tweezers.
pointy tweezers.
Pointy tweezers.
Okay, what did we shape our rings with initially to try and get them into shape?
The
What sort of
ring
pliers?
shaper.
What sort of pliers did we use?
Pointy pliers.
Round nose pliers.
Round nose pliers.
Because they go round. And what did we cut our metal with?
Snippers.
Snippers. Excellent. I think that's had a good day. I think you've had a lot to learn and
Good day.
we'll need to go home and practice on our language so next lesson you remember it. So what we normally do now is we're going to write our journal up. So I'm going to leave you writing your journal up of your steps of what you did. So you can come and remember, and I will actually put it on the board so you can copy through the steps. So you're remembering. I don't mind if you draw a picture with those steps, that's fine too.